The transport shuttle descended through purple clouds and Jinwoo pressed his face against the window. Planet Valeria 7 stretched below him like nothing he had ever seen on Earth. 3 moons hung in the sky, and forests of silver trees covered the landscape. He took a deep breath. This was really happening. Jinwoo Park was 28 years old and he was about to start the biggest adventure of his life. He was a xenobiologist from Earth, and somehow he had been accepted into the Galactic Conservation Corps. Out of thousands of applicants from hundreds of planets, they had chosen him. A human. His hands trembled slightly as the shuttle touched down. The landing pad was massive. Jinwoo grabbed his single bag and walked down the ramp. The air smelled different here. Sweet, like flowers, but also sharp like metal. His heart pounded in his chest. A tall figure waited at the edge of the pad. It had 4 arms, scaled green skin, and eyes that looked like they could see right through him. The creature stood at least 8 feet tall. Jinwoo Park? The voice was deep and rumbling. Yes, sir. Jinwoo tried to sound confident. I am Thelvax. I will be your instructor. The alien's 4 arms crossed over his chest. I will be honest with you, human. I did not want you here. The Council insisted we accept species from newly contacted worlds. But Earth only joined the galactic community 30 years ago. You are children compared to us. Jinwoo felt his face grow hot, but he nodded. I understand, sir. I'll work hard to prove myself. Thelvax made a sound like a snort. Follow me. They walked through the sanctuary compound. Everywhere Jinwoo looked, he saw aliens of different shapes and sizes. Some walked on 2 legs like him. Others floated in the air. One looked like a living cloud of gas. Buildings rose up in strange spirals made of materials that seemed to glow from within. This is the most important conservation facility in the galaxy, Thelvax explained as they walked. We protect endangered species from thousands of worlds. We study them. We breed them. We release them back into the wild. It is sacred work, I know, sir. I've studied everything I could find about this place. Studying is not the same as doing. Thelvax stopped in front of a large building. This is the trainee center. You will meet the others. Inside, a group of aliens stood around a holographic display. They all turned to look when Jinwoo entered. He felt very small suddenly. Very human. Everyone, this is Jinwoo Park from Earth, Thelvax announced. He will be joining your training group. A creature that looked like a giant praying mantis clicked its mandibles. A human? They are barely civilized. What can they possibly offer? Krillex, that is enough, Thelvax warned. But Krillex continued. Humans are prey animals. Soft. Weak. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no psychic abilities. They will be a liability in the field. Jinwoo clenched his fist but said nothing. He had expected this. Earth's reputation in the galaxy was not great. Humans were seen as emotional, reckless, and primitive. A soft voice spoke up. Give him a chance, Krillex. A young woman stepped forward. She had black hair and kind eyes. She was human. I'm Hana. I work in the research division. It's good to see another human here. You work in a lab, Krillex sneered. That is different from fieldwork. Fieldwork requires courage and skill. The floating gas cloud pulsed with different colors. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. I am Nomra. Welcome, Jinwoo Park. Do not let Krillex bother you. He treats everyone this way. Thelvax raised one of his 4 hands. Enough talking. We have important work to discuss. He activated the holographic display. An image appeared of a massive creature. It looked like a big cat, but the size of an earth elephant. Its fur was black as space, and its eyes glowed silver. This is a void stalker, Thelvax said quietly. They are the apex predators of this world. For centuries they were hunted almost to extinction. Now only 47 remain in existence. 23 are here in our sanctuary. Jinwoo stared at the image. The creature was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Last week, one of our females gave birth to 3 cubs, Thelvax continued. This is extremely important. Every cub increases the chance that this species will survive. But there is a problem. The hologram changed to show 3 small cubs huddled together. They were the size of large dogs with oversized paws and big eyes. Voidstalker cubs are born with powerful defensive instincts, Thelvax explained. They have psychic abilities even as babies. When anything approaches them, they attack. We have tried to study them, to monitor them, to help them. Every time the cubs become violent, Krillex spoke up. 12 different species have attempted contact. All have failed. 3 researchers died. Many more were injured. Tomorrow we will observe the den, Thelvax said. The mother hunts at dawn. That gives us a short window to check on the cubs from a distance. We will use drones only. No one will approach the den. Is that understood? Everyone nodded, including Jinwoo. Good, get some rest. We leave before sunrise. Thelvax turned off the hologram and left the room. The other aliens dispersed quickly. Only Hana remained with Jinwoo. Don't let them get to you, she said softly. Krillex is the worst, but most of them think humans don't belong here. We have to prove ourselves twice as much as anyone else. I know. Jinwoo looked at where the hologram had been. Those cubs. They're just babies. They must be so scared. They're deadly babies, Hana corrected. The last person who got close to them ended up in medical care for 3 months. Their psychic attack nearly destroyed his mind. Jinwoo nodded slowly, but something felt wrong about the whole situation.
He had spent his whole life studying animals on Earth. He had worked with wolves, bears, and big cats.
Babies that attacked anything that came near usually meant one thing. They were terrified. That night, Jinwoo could not sleep. He lay in his assigned quarters and thought about the cubs. He accessed the sanctuary's database and read every report about void stalkers. He watched videos of the failed contact attempts. He studied and then he saw it. Something everyone else had missed. Every single approach had used the same technique. Researchers came in with protective gear, defensive shields, and weapons just in case. They approached slowly but with caution. They treated the cubs like dangerous threats. What if that was the problem? What if the cubs were reacting to the fear and aggression they sensed? Void stalkers were psychic. They could feel emotions. What if they were just responding to what they felt from the researchers? Jinwoo sat up in bed. He had an idea. It was probably crazy. It was definitely against protocol. But it might work. He thought about Earth, about how humans had taken wolf cubs thousands of years ago and turned them into dogs, about how people raised orphaned tiger cubs and formed bonds with them, about his own work with an injured bear cub that everyone said would never trust humans. Humans had something other species did not seem to have. They could bond with predators. They could make friends with creatures that should eat them. It was weird and illogical, but it was real. Could it work with alien predators too? Jinwoo made his decision. Tomorrow, when everyone else was using drones and keeping their distance, he would try something different. He would approach the cubs like a human, not like an alien scientist. He would offer them trust instead of fear, friendship instead of caution. It might get him killed, but it might also save those cubs. And maybe, just maybe, it would show the galaxy that humans belonged here after all. The alarm woke Jinwoo before dawn. He dressed quickly in the standard field uniform and met the others at the equipment bay. The air was cold and smelled like dew. 3 of Valeria 7's moons still hung in the dark sky. Thelvax was already there, checking supplies. Today you will learn proper observation protocols. Void stalkers are not pets. They are apex predators with abilities you cannot imagine. Remember this and you might survive your time here. Krillex picked up a long-range scanner. The mother left the den 30 minutes ago. Our window is small. She usually returns within 2 hours. They loaded into a hover vehicle that moved silently through the silver forest. Jinwoo watched the trees pass by. In the growing light, he could see small creatures moving in the branches. Everything here was alien, yet somehow familiar. Life was life, whether on Earth or a planet hundreds of light years away. The vehicle stopped at the edge of a rocky area. Massive boulders rose up from the ground like ancient monuments. Somewhere among those rocks was the den. We set up here, Thelvax said. The den is 200 meters that way. We deploy drones for visual monitoring. No one gets closer than this position. Understood? Understood, everyone replied. Nomra released 3 small drones that floated up and away toward the rocks. Krillex activated a holographic screen that showed what the drones saw. Jinwoo watched as the image focused on a dark opening between 2 large boulders. 3 small shapes moved inside the den. The cubs, they tumbled over each other, playing like kittens. But even from this distance, Jinwoo could see the power in them. When one cub pounced on another, the impact shook dust from the rocks. Beautiful, aren't they? Hana stood next to Jinwoo. She had joined them to take biological readings. And completely impossible to approach. Why do you think that is? Jinwoo asked quietly. Because they're predators. It's their nature. But they're babies, Jinwoo said. Babies need care, comfort. On Earth, even predator cubs seek contact with others. Hana shook her head. These aren't Earth animals, Jinwoo. Different planet, different rules. Void stalkers are psychic. They can sense emotions, read intentions, and they respond to any approach with violence. Thelvax called everyone over. We will maintain observation for 1 hour. Then we retreat before the mother returns. Kurlex, monitor the perimeter. Nomura, keep the drones at maximum distance. The cubs have destroyed our equipment before. The team settled into their positions. Jinwoo sat on a rock and watched the holographic display. The cubs were playing with something, maybe a piece of bone. They looked so normal, so much like baby animals he had known on Earth. He remembered the reports he had read last night. Every approach had been the same. Researchers in protective suits carrying weapons surrounded by defensive shields. They had come prepared for danger. And the cubs had given them danger. But what if someone came differently? What if someone came the way humans had always approached wild animals? With patience, with calmness, with trust. I need to use the bathroom, Jinwoo said suddenly. Kurlex did not look up from his scanner. Use the waste recycler in the vehicle. Right. Thanks. Jinwoo walked back toward the hover vehicle. But when he was out of sight, he changed direction. His heart pounded. This was against every rule. If Thelvax found out, he would be sent back to Earth in disgrace. But something in his gut told him this was right. He moved quietly through the silver trees, circling around to approach the den from a different angle. The rocks grew larger as he got closer. He could hear small sounds now, squeaking, growling. The noises of playing cubs. Jinwoo stopped behind a large boulder about 20 meters from the den entrance. He could see them now with his own eyes, not through a drone camera. 3 cubs, black as midnight, with silver eyes that seemed to glow. They were gorgeous. He took a deep breath. This was it. The point of no return. Back at the observation post, Hana was the first to notice. Where's Jinwoo? Thelvax looked around. He said he needed the bathroom. That was 10 minutes ago. Hana pulled up her tracking device. All team members wore biosignal monitors. Her face went pale. No, he didn't. What? Thelvax grabbed the device. The screen showed Jinwoo's biosignals. His location made Thelvax's scales turn a darker shade of green. He's at the den. That fool is at the den! Kralex spun around. Impossible. No one would be that stupid. Redirect the drones, Thelvax shouted. Now! The holographic display shifted. It took a moment for the drone to find him, but then there he was. Jinwoo kneeling on the ground about 15 meters from the den entrance. The cubs had stopped playing. All 3 of them were staring at him. He's going to die, Kralex said flatly. We need to extract him immediately. If we approach now, the cubs will definitely attack. Nomura's voice chimed with worry. The movement and noise will trigger them. Thelvax watched the screen, all 4 of his hands clenched into fists. Hana, can you contact him? His comm unit is off. He doesn't want us to interfere. Hana's hands shook as she held her tablet. What do we do? We watch, Thelvax said grimly. And we prepare emergency medical. At the den, Jinwoo sat very still. The cubs had sensed him immediately. He felt it, a pressure in his mind, like something pushing against his thoughts. It was not painful, but it was strange. This must be their psychic ability. One cub took a step toward him, then another. They were curious but cautious. Jinwoo did not move. He kept his breathing slow and steady. He thought calm thoughts, peaceful thoughts. On Earth, he had learned that animals could sense fear. Dogs knew when you were nervous. Cats knew when you were angry. If void stalkers were psychic, they would sense his emotions even more clearly, so Jinwoo filled his mind with gentleness. He thought about the first time he had bottle-fed an orphaned wolf cub. The trust in its eyes, the way it had relaxed in his arms. He thought about the injured owl he had nursed back to health. The moment it had landed on his shoulder and hooted softly, he thought about love for animals. About wonder and respect and kindness. The largest cub moved closer. It was about 3 meters away now. Jinwoo could see every detail. The soft fur, the oversized paws, the intelligent eyes watching him. Slowly, very slowly, Jinwoo extended his hand, palm up, non-threatening. The same gesture humans had used for thousands of years to greet strange animals. The cub tilted its head. The psychic pressure increased. Jinwoo felt it probing deeper into his mind, searching for danger, for threat, for any reason to attack. It would find none. Because Jinwoo meant no harm, he never had. Back at the observation post, the entire team held their breath. "This is it," Krillex whispered. "This is when they attack." But the cub did not attack. It took another step forward. And another. Until it was right in front of Jinwoo's extended hand. The cub lowered its head and sniffed his palm. "Impossible," Thelvax breathed. The cub's rough tongue touched Jinwoo's hand. It licked once, twice, and then it pressed its head against Jinwoo's palm just like a cat seeking affection. The other two cubs rushed forward, not attacking, but eager. They crowded around Jinwoo, sniffing him, licking his hands, making small chirping sounds. Jinwoo laughed. He could not help it. Relief and joy bubbled up inside him. It had worked. It had actually worked. He gently scratched behind one cub's ears. It purred, a sound like distant thunder. Another cub climbed into his lap, surprisingly heavy. The third one bumped its head against his shoulder. They were just babies. Lonely, curious babies who had been approached with fear and weapons all their lives. No wonder they had attacked. They were defending themselves against perceived threats. But Jinwoo had not come as a threat. He had come as a friend, and the cubs knew the difference. The hover vehicle arrived at the den within minutes. Thelvax jumped out before it fully stopped, his forearms gesturing wildly. "Step away from the cubs." Slowly, Jinwoo looked up. He sat on the ground with 3 Voidstalker cubs crawling all over him. One was curled in his lap. Another chewed gently on his sleeve. The third one was trying to climb onto his shoulders. "It's okay," Jinwoo said calmly. "They're not going to hurt me. Not going to." Thelvax stopped. His scales faded to a lighter green, a sign of complete shock in his species. "How?" Krillex scuttled closer, his insect eyes wide. "This should not be possible. Our scans showed no psychic dampeners, no chemical agents, no technology at all." Hana ran up with her medical scanner. "Are you injured? Did they bite you? Scratch you?" "I'm fine." Jinwoo gently moved the cub off his lap and stood up. The 3 cubs immediately pressed against his legs, making small worried sounds. He knelt down and stroked their heads. "See, they're just scared babies." They needed someone to be gentle with them. Nomura floated closer, colors swirling in patterns of confusion. "In 300 years of xenobiology, I have never seen anything like this. Every species that approached these cubs was attacked. Every single one." Thelvax slowly circled around Jinwoo and the cubs, watching carefully. "What did you do differently?" "I didn't do anything special," Jinwoo said. I treated them like I would treat any frightened animal. I stayed calm. I didn't show fear or aggression. I let them come to me." "But you are human," Krillex said. "Humans are prey animals, weak. The cubs should have sensed that weakness and attacked." One of the cubs growled at Krillex. It was a small sound, but definitely a warning. Krillex quickly backed up. Jinwoo smiled. "Humans aren't prey animals." "Not exactly. We're complicated. We evolved as both hunters and hunted. We learned to survive by being smart and by making friends with other predators." "Explain," Thelvax commanded. "On Earth, thousands of years ago, humans lived alongside wolves, dangerous predators. But instead of just fighting them, we made a deal. We shared our food and they helped us hunt. Over time, those wolves became dogs. Loyal companions." Hana pulled up information on her tablet. He's right. Human history is full of cross-species bonding. They domesticated wolves, cats, horses, birds. They even formed friendships with wild animals like dolphins and elephants. "But how does that help with these cubs?" Nomura asked. Jinwoo thought for a moment. "I think it's about emotion. Humans feel things strongly. When I approached the cubs, I wasn't thinking about them as research subjects or dangerous predators. I was thinking about them as babies who needed help. I felt affection, care, love, I guess." "Ridiculous," Krillex said. "Emotions are weaknesses. They cloud judgment." "Maybe for your species," Jinwoo replied. "But for humans, emotions are tools. These cubs are psychic, right? They can sense feelings. Every other researcher came here feeling fear or caution or scientific curiosity. But I came feeling genuine kindness. They sensed that difference." Thelvax was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated his communication device. "This is Thelvax to Sanctuary Command. We need a full research team at the Voidstalker Den. Immediately. We have a situation that requires urgent analysis. Within an hour, The area around the den became crowded with researchers, scientists, and administrators. They set up equipment and scanners. They took readings of Jinwoo, the cubs, and everything in between. Dr. Minho, the sanctuary's head of xenobiology, arrived by personal shuttle. He was human, an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. I heard the report, but I had to see it myself. He watched as the cubs played around Jinwoo's feet. Extraordinary. Truly extraordinary. Dr. Minho, can you explain what's happening here? Thelvax asked. The older scientist pulled up holographic displays showing brain scans and chemical readings. Look at this. When Jinwoo interacts with the cubs, his body produces high levels of oxytocin. That's a bonding hormone in humans. It's released when mothers hold babies, when people hug, when they pet animals. Other species don't produce this, Nomra asked. Not like humans do. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved from prey animals or hive insects. They developed intelligence to escape danger or serve the collective. Humans are different. They evolved as social hunters who needed to cooperate and form bonds. Dr. Minho changed the display to show Jinwoo's biosignals. Additionally, humans have mirror neurons that are extremely active. When Jinwoo sees the cubs, his brain automatically tries to understand their emotional state. He feels empathy. Real biological empathy. Krillex made a dismissive sound. So humans are more emotional. That does not explain why the cubs accept him. Actually, it does, Dr. Minho said. The cubs are psychic. They sense emotions directly. When previous researchers approached, the cubs felt their fear, their caution, their clinical detachment. To a young predator, those feelings signal danger or prey. But when Jinwoo approached, Hana said slowly, understanding dawning on her face, they felt his genuine care, his desire to help, not harm. Exactly. To the cubs, Jinwoo doesn't feel like a threat or prey. He feels like family. The word hung in the air. Family. One of the cubs, the smallest one, chirped and rubbed against Jinwoo's leg. He picked it up, cradling it like a kitten. It immediately started purring. We need to document everything, Thelvax said. If this is replicable, if humans truly have this ability, it changes everything we know about conservation and wildlife rehabilitation. Can we test it? Krillex asked. There are other aggressive species in the sanctuary. Species that have rejected all contact attempts. Dr. Minho nodded. That would be valuable research. But first we need to understand the extent of Jinwoo's bond with these cubs. He turned to Jinwoo. Would you be willing to continue working with them? Help us develop new protocols? Of course, Jinwoo said immediately. That's why I came here. To help. Over the next several days, Jinwoo spent hours with the cubs. The researchers documented everything. They discovered that the cubs responded to human emotional cues with surprising sophistication. When Jinwoo was happy, they played more energetically. When he was calm, they rested peacefully. When he was sad once, after receiving news about a sick relative, the cubs actually tried to comfort him. It's a genuine two-way bond, Hana said, reviewing the data. The cubs aren't just tolerating Jinwoo. They care about him. Jinwoo gave the cubs names. The largest one, a male with a distinctive white patch on his chest, became Doyun. The female with the brightest silver eyes became Miso. The smallest, another male who loved to climb, became Taeyang. Word spread throughout the galaxy about the human who befriended the Voidstalker cubs. Scientists from dozens of worlds requested information. The sanctuary received hundreds of messages asking about human-led conservation techniques. But then came the real test. The mother is returning, Nomra announced one morning. Her hunting pattern shows she will be back at the den by midday. Everyone froze. They had been so focused on the cubs that they had almost forgotten about the adult Voidstalker. The mother was 10 times the size of her cubs. She had survived the near extinction of her species, had fought and killed to stay alive. She would not be as trusting as her babies. Thelvax approached Jinwoo. You need to leave now. The cubs accepted you, but an adult Voidstalker is different, more dangerous, more territorial. Jinwoo looked at Doyun, Miso, and Taeyang. They played nearby, completely comfortable with all the equipment and people around them now. What happens to them when she returns? Will she be angry that we've been here? We don't know, Dr. Minho admitted. This is unprecedented territory. Then I should stay, Jinwoo said. If she comes back and smells strangers all over her cubs, she might reject them. But if I'm here, maybe I can help her understand that we're not a threat. Absolutely not, Thelvax said firmly. The cubs are babies. Their psychic abilities are weak. The mother's psychic power could crush your mind like an eggshell. He has a point, though, Hana said quietly. Our scent is all over the den area. The mother will know something happened. She might abandon the cubs. The team argued for an hour. Finally, they reached a compromise. Jinwoo would stay, but at a safe distance with emergency extraction ready. The cubs would be in the den. When the mother returned, they would observe what happened. As noon approached, sensors detected the mother void stalker's approach. Everyone moved to safe positions. Jinwoo stood near the den entrance, his heart racing. The cubs sensed their mother coming. They ran to the den entrance, chirping excitedly. And then she appeared. She was enormous, beautiful and terrifying. Her black fur seemed to absorb light. Her silver eyes blazed with intelligence and power. She moved with the grace of a supreme predator, and she saw Jinwoo standing near her den. The psychic pressure hit him like a physical blow. His knees almost buckled. This was nothing like the gentle probing of the cubs. This was a wave of pure force searching his mind, his intentions, his soul. The mother void stalker growled, and the sound made the ground vibrate. Jinwoo fought the urge to run. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to flee from the massive predator standing 10 meters away. The mother void stalker was easily 3 times the size of an earth tiger, with muscles that rippled under her midnight fur. Her silver eyes locked onto him with an intensity that made him feel transparent. The psychic pressure increased. It was like invisible hands reaching into his mind, pulling apart his thoughts to examine them. He could feel her searching through his memories, his feelings, everything that made him who he was. At the observation post, alarms blared. His neural activity is spiking, Hana shouted, watching the medical readings. The psychic assault is too strong. Prepare extraction, Thelvax ordered. On my mark, we go in and pull him out. Wait. Dr. Minho held up his hand, eyes fixed on the holographic display. Look at his oxytocin levels. They're rising, not falling. On the screen, Jinwoo's biosignal showed something strange. Despite the psychic pressure, his body was producing bonding hormones. His heart rate was elevated, but not in panic. He was afraid, yes, but he was also feeling something else. Hope, care, love for the cubs. Jinwoo did not try to fight the psychic probe. He let the mother see everything. He showed her his memories of the cubs. How Doyun had first licked his hand. How Miso liked to have her ears scratched. How Taeyang always tried to climb on his shoulders. He let her feel his genuine affection for them. He also showed her Earth, not with words but with memories and emotions. He remembered his grandmother's farm where she had raised orphaned lambs by hand. He remembered the wildlife rehabilitation center where he had worked, bottle-feeding tiger cubs whose mother had been killed by poachers. He remembered sitting for hours with an injured wolf slowly earning its trust. The mother void stalker saw all of this. She saw thousands of years of human history, people saving injured animals, nursing sick birds back to health, releasing dolphins tangled in nets, protecting baby seals, raising orphaned gorillas. She saw that humans were strange creatures who cried when animals died, who risked their lives to save species that could easily kill them, who felt joy when wild creatures trusted them enough to come close. The cubs ran out from the den, chirping and calling. They rushed to Jinwoo, pressing against his legs, looking up at him with bright silver eyes. Then they ran to their mother, rubbing against her massive legs, their small voices excited. The mother lowered her huge head and sniffed her cubs. She could smell Jinwoo on them. Weeks of contact had left his scent mixed with theirs, but the cubs were healthy, happy, and completely unafraid. They showed no signs of trauma or distress. The psychic pressure on Jinwoo's mind changed. It became less aggressive, more curious. The mother was no longer searching for threats. She was trying to understand. Jinwoo slowly, very slowly, knelt down. He made himself smaller, less threatening. I won't hurt them, he said softly, even though he knew she could not understand his words. But maybe she could feel his meaning. I just want to help. Doyun chirped and ran back to Jinwoo, climbing into his lap like always. Miso and Taeyang followed. The 3 cubs cuddled against the human, purring their thunderous purrs. The mother void stalker watched this. Her massive head tilted to one side. Then she took a step forward, and another. She's approaching him, Kralex whispered at the observation post. This is when she kills him. But Dr. Minho shook his head slowly. I don't think so. Look at her body language. She's not in a hunting stance. She's curious. The mother came closer until she stood right in front of Jinwoo. Up close, she was even more magnificent. Her presence was overwhelming. One swipe of her paw could end his life instantly. Her psychic power could shatter his mind, but Jinwoo stayed calm. He kept his breathing steady. He thought peaceful thoughts. The mother lowered her enormous head. Her nose, as large as Jinwoo's whole face, touched his chest. She sniffed deeply. Then, in a gesture that made everyone watching hold their breath, she pressed her forehead against Jinwoo's chest. Jinwoo felt it immediately. A different kind of psychic contact. Not invasive or aggressive, gentle, almost warm. It was like a door opening in his mind, and on the other side was her. He could feel her emotions. The fierce love she had for her cubs. The pain of losing her mate to hunters. The fear that her species would disappear forever. The exhaustion of being one of the last of her kind. And now, surprisingly, a small amount of trust. For this strange, soft creature who smelled wrong but felt right. Who her cubs loved without fear. Jinwoo slowly raised his hand and placed it on the mother's massive head. Her fur was softer than he expected. "I understand," he whispered. "You've been alone for so long, but you don't have to be anymore." At the observation post, the entire team stood in stunned silence. They watched as the mother Void Stalker, the most dangerous predator on the planet, accepted the touch of a human. "By all the stars in the galaxy," Thelvax breathed. "He did it. He actually did it." Dr. Minho was already recording everything. This changes everything we thought we knew about interspecies bonding, about conservation, about the role of emotions in xenobiology. Hana wiped tears from her eyes. "Do you know what this means? Every aggressive species we've failed to rehabilitate, every animal that rejected contact, they might respond to human handlers. We could save so many more lives." Over the following weeks, the sanctuary transformed. Jinwoo continued working with the Void Stalker family. The mother, whom he named Nari, accepted his presence completely. She allowed him to check her cubs, to play with them, even to sleep near the den. Other conservationists began requesting human assistance with their problem animals. A pair of razor-backed crushers that had killed 3 handlers calmed down when a human named Junho worked with them. A flock of sky predators that attacked anyone who approached their nests allowed a human woman named Yoonji to study them up close. The pattern was consistent. Humans had something other species lacked: the ability to form genuine emotional bonds with creatures that should be their enemies. Scientists across the galaxy began studying human biochemistry, psychology, and evolutionary history. They discovered that Earth was unique. Most intelligent species had evolved on worlds with limited predator diversity. They had developed intelligence to escape danger, not to coexist with it. But Earth had been a violent world. Humans had survived by being adaptable, social, and emotionally intelligent. They had learned to read the emotions of other species, to form alliances with wolves, horses, and eventually dozens of other animals. Their brains were wired for cross-species empathy in a way no other known species was. "It's your weakness that makes you strong," Dr. Minho explained to a gathering of xenobiologists from across the galaxy. "Humans feel deeply. They cry, they laugh, they love. Other species see this as primitive, as a flaw. But this emotional capacity allows them to connect with other living beings on a level we cannot." Thelvax, who had once doubted Jinwoo, now worked closely with him to develop new conservation protocols. "I was wrong about humans," he admitted one day as they watched Doyun, Miso, and Taiyang play in the forest. "I thought emotions were a weakness. I see now they are a gift." "We all have our strengths," Jinwoo said. "Your people have centuries of experience and knowledge. Nomra's species can process data in ways we can't imagine. Krillex's kind have incredibly efficient organizational systems. Humans just happen to be good at making friends with things that could eat us." Thelvax made the rumbling sound that was his species' version of laughter. A very specific talent. 6 months passed. The cubs grew larger, stronger, more independent. They learned to hunt from their mother, but they never forgot Jinwoo. Whenever he visited the den, they rushed to greet him, now nearly as tall as he was at the shoulder. The sanctuary's success rate improved dramatically with human handlers. Endangered species that had been impossible to breed in captivity began reproducing. Aggressive animals became manageable. Release programs succeeded where they had failed before. Earth established the Interstellar Conservation Academy. Young humans trained in xenobiology and animal behavior traveled to worlds across the galaxy. They brought with them humanity's gift, the ability to see past fear and find connection. But the time came for Jinwoo to face his hardest challenge. Nari and her cubs were ready for release back into the wild. They had learned everything they needed to survive. The sanctuary's mission was not to keep animals captive, but to return them to their natural habitat. "It's time," Dr. Minho said gently. "They belong in the wild, not here." Jinwoo knew he was right, but knowing did not make it easier. The morning was cold and clear. 3 moons still hung in the purple sky as Jinwoo walked through the silver forest one last time with Nari and her cubs. Doyen walked on his right, now almost as tall as Jinwoo himself. Miso paced on his left, her silver eyes bright and alert. Taiyang bounced ahead, still playful despite his size. Behind them, the sanctuary team followed at a respectful distance. Thelvax, Hana, Dr. Minho, even Krillex, who had become something like a friend over the past months. They all came to witness the release. The boundary of the sanctuary was marked by a shimmering energy field. Beyond it stretched endless wilderness, the true home of the Void Stalkers. Hills covered in silver trees, deep valleys with rushing rivers, mountains that touched the clouds. Jinwoo stopped at the boundary control station. The technician, a human woman named Somin, stood ready at the controls. "Ready when you are," she said softly. He was not ready. He would never be ready. But that did not matter. This was not about him. Jinwoo knelt down and wrapped his arms around Doyen's massive neck. The big male purred, a sound like rolling thunder. "You're going to do great out there," Jinwoo whispered. "You're strong and smart. Take care of your brother and sister, okay?" Doyen licked his face with a tongue the size of a dinner plate. Jinwoo laughed through his tears. He moved to Miso, scratching behind her ears the way she loved. "Don't let the boys boss you around. You're the smartest one." Miso rumbled deep in her chest and pressed her head against his shoulder. Taeyang was last, still the most playful. He tried to climb on Jinwoo one more time. "Hey, you're too big for that now," Jinwoo said, gently pushing the young Voidstalker down. "But I'll miss you trying." Finally, he stood before Nari. The mother Voidstalker lowered her massive head until her forehead touched his. The psychic connection opened between them one last time. He felt her gratitude, her trust, and something that felt remarkably like affection. She had accepted him into her family, a strange, hairless creature that had no business being near apex predators. And yet here they were. "Thank you," Jinwoo said, "for trusting me, for showing the galaxy that connection is possible." Nari made a soft sound, almost like a sigh. Then she turned toward the boundary. Her cubs lined up beside her, ready to follow their mother into the wild. Jinwoo nodded to Somin. "Open it." The energy field shimmered and disappeared. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Nari stepped forward, crossing the boundary. Doyen, Miso, and Taeyang followed. They paused just on the other side and looked back. Jinwoo raised his hand in farewell. "Go on, be free," the cubs chirped one last time. Then they turned and ran, following their mother into the silver forest. Within moments, they disappeared among the trees, 4 shadows melting into the wilderness. Jinwoo stood there long after they were gone. Hana came to stand beside him. "You did it," she said. "You saved them." "We saved them," Jinwoo corrected. "All of us together." Dr. Minho put a hand on his shoulder. "The cubs have tracking beacons. We'll monitor their progress. But I think they're going to be fine. More than fine." Over the following months, the tracking data proved him right. Nari and her cubs thrived in the wild. They established a territory in the mountains. They hunted successfully. They avoided the dangers that had nearly destroyed their species. But something unexpected happened. The cubs were different from other Voidstalkers. Where wild-born Voidstalkers were aggressive and territorial, Doyen, Miso, and Taeyang showed unusual behaviors. They were cautious around sanctuary drones instead of attacking them. When researchers needed to check on them from a distance, the cubs seemed to understand they meant no harm. "It's like they learned from you," Hana told Jinwoo as they reviewed the data. "They learned that not all strangers are threats, that some creatures can be trusted." Even more remarkable was what happened a year later. Miso found a mate and had cubs of her own. The researchers expected the new generation to be as aggressive as traditional Voidstalkers. But when they deployed drones to observe, the young cubs showed less fear and aggression than historical records indicated. "She's teaching them what she learned," Dr. Minho said with wonder. The gentleness, the trust, it's being passed down. You didn't just save one family, Jinwoo. You changed the species. News of the Void Stalker's success spread across the galaxy. Jinwoo became known not just as a xenobiologist but as a pioneer in interspecies relations. Requests poured in from dozens of worlds. Could humans help with the savage ridge runners of Keltos 9? Could they work with the mind-burning swarm queens of Hiveworld Theta? Could they approach the legendary ghost panthers that no species had ever successfully studied? The answer again and again was yes. Jinwoo trained more humans in his techniques. Not just the technical knowledge, but the emotional approach. Don't think of them as subjects, he taught his students. Think of them as individuals with feelings, fears, and needs. Let yourself care about them. That's when the real connection happens. 5 years after the Cubs' release, Jinwoo became the director of the Interstellar Conservation Corps. Earth's Interstellar Conservation Academy had campuses on 12 worlds. Hundreds of humans worked across the galaxy, forming bonds with creatures that had once been considered impossible to approach. The galaxy's view of humans began to change. They were no longer seen as primitive newcomers. They were recognized for their unique gift, their ability to bridge the gap between species with emotion and empathy. One morning, Jinwoo received an alert at his office. Doyen's tracking beacon was near the sanctuary boundary. He immediately went to the observation post. Through the cameras, he saw Doyen standing at the edge of the energy field. But he was not alone. 3 small cubs played around his feet. Doyen had found a mate and started his own family. He brought them here, Somin said, her voice full of wonder. He brought his cubs to meet you. Jinwoo felt his throat tighten. He went to the boundary and deactivated a small section of the field. Doyen stood on the other side, now fully grown and magnificent. The cubs, small copies of their father, hid behind his legs and peeked out with curious silver eyes. "Hey, old friend," Jinwoo said softly. Doyen made a low, rumbling sound. The psychic touch was gentle, familiar. It conveyed pride, showing off his cubs the way a friend would. "Look what I made. Look at my family." The smallest cub, braver than its siblings, crept forward. It sniffed the air, sensing this strange creature that its father trusted completely. Jinwoo knelt down and slowly extended his hand. The cub tilted its head, considering. Then it took a cautious step forward. And another, until it was close enough to sniff Jinwoo's palm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the cub's small tongue licked his hand. Just once, just like Doyen had done 5 years ago. Jinwoo laughed, the sound mixing with tears. The other 2 cubs, seeing their sibling safe, rushed forward. They climbed over Jinwoo, licking his face, chirping excitedly. Doyen watched with what could only be described as satisfaction. "Thank you," Jinwoo whispered to his old friend. "Thank you for trusting me again." As news of this moment spread, it became symbolic of everything the human-led conservation movement had achieved. The cubs who had been saved were now saving cubs of their own. The trust that had been built was being passed down through generations. In his office later, Jinwoo updated his report for the Galactic Conservation Council. He thought about that first day when Thelvax had said, "The cubs will attack." How certain everyone had been that void stalkers could never be approached, never be trusted, never be saved. They had been wrong. Not because the cubs were not dangerous, but because they had been approaching them all wrong. It took a human with all their messy emotions and illogical empathy to see past the threat to the frightened babies underneath. Jinwoo looked at the picture on his desk. It showed him surrounded by Doyen, Miso, and Taiyang when they were still small. All of them were younger then. All of them were learning what it meant to trust someone completely different from themselves. That picture had been transmitted to every world in the galaxy. It had become a symbol, proof that connection was possible across any divide, that love and trust could bridge gaps that logic and caution could not. Thelvax had been right about one thing. The cubs did attack anyone who approached them. Anyone except a human who came not with shields and weapons, but with an open heart and gentle hands, and that, Jinwoo thought, made all the difference. Outside his window, another transport shuttle descended toward the sanctuary. It carried more human trainees, young people eager to learn how to connect with the galaxy's most dangerous and beautiful creatures. The work would continue. The bonds would grow stronger, and across the galaxy, on a wild world covered in silver forests, Voidstalker cubs played without fear. Their futures bright because one human had dared to reach out his hand in friendship. The instructor had cautioned, "The cubs will attack, but instead they had licked the human's hand and everything changed.